Hello, myself Ramnaredi. I am currently working on Shore. Today I am going to explain about the gRPC. My agenda is like what is the gRPC and the features of the gRPC and how many streaming types are there in gRPC and how to work the photo file template format in gRPC and which cases we are going to use the gRPC and what is the pros and cons of the gRPC. To build the gRPC service using the .NET Core as well as how to consume the .NET Core service within the Python client. So what is the gRPC? gRPC is an open source remote processor called framework, so that can run in any environment. It enables the client and server applications to communicate each other with the help of the HTTP 2 protocol. So mostly gRPC services support in microservice oriented architecture. Means we are going mostly we are using gRPC in microservice oriented architectures. So what is the features? So what are the features of the gRPC service? So it supports the HTTP2 protocol and gRPC messages are serializing using the photo buff by default in the form of the binary format. So whenever you are transferring the data from client to server, it always use the binary format. So as well as it will support the bidirectional streaming. So it support bidirectional kind will send some like chatbot will work like bidirectional streaming. Such a feature which is very helpful in gRPC. So photo buff compiler, it has a wonderful feature like photo buff compiler. So it will generate the automatic code based on the technology. So not only this, it will support the all authentication and we can set the load balancing and we can set the logging functionality and we can set the timeouts and cancellation of the request and the request types. Suppose if you develop any gRPC service, suppose for example if you develop any a service in either C# or Java, so we can consume that service in multi-platform, irrespective. You can consume in any platform like Ruby client, Android application, mobile device, mobile application development environment. In anywhere we can consume that services using that photo file format. So, so what are the streaming types? gRPC contain the mainly four types of the streaming types. So one is unary RPCs. Unary type remote procedure calls means it's normal simple function calls. While sending the request to client to server, it will get the response in the form of it will get the single response back to client. Normal function call, it will work like that. So server side streaming. Server side streaming means client send a request to the server and get the response in the form of the stream. It will contain the sequence of messages. Suppose for example if you think about the Netflix and YouTube videos, so it will whenever you are watching the YouTube content or Netflix content, in that video related content we can get the step by step. Means that client is not going to download entire video content into DOM. So it will fetch the data from servers, different whatever the servers they are using, from servers in the form of the streams, one by one, like that it will come in the form of the chunks, like instead of coming all the video content in one shot to DOM, so it will within the one request it will send the request in the form of the chunks to the client. So third one is the client side streaming. Client side streaming means we can send the multiple chunks of data to server. So here we have multiple like for example if you think about the uploading a file, so that file size is larger, so we are able to send the large set of requests to the server, unable to transfer data that much easily. It will take more time, so we can divide that request into the multiple chains and we can send the data to server. For example if you upload large file data, so Fourth one is bidirectional streaming. Bidirectional streaming remote procedure call means, so here client and server can send the sequence of messages in the form of the read writes. So can two streams operate independently, means a client and server will operate independently. So a client will send whatever the data based on the order, like if you do the charting. So if you send that request, maybe sometimes you get the may or may not get the response immediately. Before getting the response also you can send the one more request as well. So like a chatbot, how we are daily ways we are communicate each other using the chatbots, like that it will, in that case we can use that bidirectional streaming. So let's move to third one, this photo file template. So mainly this is a photo file template. Mainly gRPC works with photo buff concepts only. Here photo buffs are very flexible and efficient to serialize the structured data. The latest version of the photo buff is photo 3 version. Right now we are using photo buffer 3 version. So photo buff protocol file format is .proto type. So it is a contract file, nothing but whenever you, if you think about in .NET, if you are creating WCF services, we will build that contracts, right? Similarly, here photo buff file contains the contracts, definition of the um, uh, methods and what type of the data, what type of the request we are going to hit, and means what type of the service you are providing to client and client. So such a type of request we can, such a methods we are going to include in this file. So here so if you think about the here syntax is the version of the photo buffer compiler, photo buff versions. If you don't mention the version, so by default this protocol buffer, this protocol buffer compiler will consider as a version 2. By default it will consider 2. So if you mention in 3 means it will work as photo buffer compiler 3 based on that version. So if you think about the package, a package will help the naming conflict and name of the package. So in, suppose it's similar to namespace of the in .NET projects, we will mention namespace name. So we can differentiate the conflicts between the projects. That's why we'll use the package naming, package attribute. So here service is the RPC. Here if you think that this is the service interface, service where name of the service definition we can mention here. So here RPC is the remote. So while building the contract of photo buffer, you can use RPC. So you can define this RPC is a service interface method. So photo call buffer compiler will generate the service interface code. Here this photo call whatever the methods you define, this photo call buffer compiler will generate the service interface code. Based on that, wherever we are using in C#, based on that it will work. It will generate the code, as well as if you are using Java, Node.js or Python, whatever technology you are using, based on that this photo buffer compiler will generate the methods based on this interface. Message is the type of request, means here message is the what type of data you are sending to server, what type of data you are sending and receiving from the server and client, from client to server, whatever the data you are transferred to, you can mention that type of it's similar to, if you think about the C# models, class object property names while sending and receiving, object carriers, nothing but if you define think in C# we will declare models, right? So in models whatever you mention, it will act like data carriers between the client and server. So similarly message is like that. So here we will give the each attribute will give the naming conventions like 1 2 3. So whatever the properties we are mentioned, string, integer, string name, if you think about message, here name is the name of the property. So we'll give the order like 1 2 3. So based on that order, it will render that it will render the data to corresponding response object while sending and receiving. It will, based on that name number convention, it will work and set the corresponding value to that property value. That is the protocol template here. So in gRPC recommended scenarios, means in where mostly we are going to utilize the gRPC services. So mainly it is designed for the low latency and high throughput communication. So uh, mostly we will use in microservices wherever we are utilizing microservices concepts. So we can inject this gRPC services there, and IoT devices, mainly IoT devices we can use. Not only that, in point-to-point communication, in real-time communication, support the bidirectional streaming. So in real time, point to point real time communication is there. So it's nothing but bidirectional communication. In that case we can use in cloud services. In cloud services also we are using, we can use this gRPC services. So if you think about the cloud, if you are you using cloud, means in background most of the services will work. If you log in, if you are hitting one service, if you are consuming one service, means way of sending data to one service. So within that request, in background, many of the microservices related APIs will trigger automatically. Mostly cloud services we can utilize these gRPC services as well. So what are the pros and cons for the gRPC services? Let's think about the pros. uh, by default it will support the HTTP protocol format. Support HTTP2 protocol. It support the bidirectional streaming as with high performance. uh, protocol this protocol buffer transfer the data, means in gRPC protocol buffer will transfer the data in the binary format, like machine understandable format. In 0s1 format it can transfer the data. It support multi-platform, like if you develop the one services in C# or Java, you can consume that service in multi-platform like Ruby, Ruby and Node.js, wherever it is, we can utilize that. So not only that, if you think about the cons, it will support gRPC. Main disadvantage is it will not support the browser. It is strictly contract based approach. So if you think about normal API calls, if we will get the response in the form of the JSON, we can in that in the normal API we can utilize this. We can see the data, what type of data we are passing, and we are getting from the server. We can see the data in the browser itself. So here we are unable to manage the type of payload of the response. So very difficult to debug the what type of the data we are sending, and we are getting the response from the server. We are unable to debug that payloads very difficult to debug the payload data. That's all about pros and cons. Let's flip to example.